Our next presenter is Nancy Huether from North Dakota DOT.
I'm here this afternoon to talk about the Bridge Inspection Program Managers Working Group at the Midwest Bridge Preservation Partnership. Say in 2021, but probably in 2020, later in 2020, the Southeast Bridge Preservation Partnership decided that they wanted to have a working group for the Bridge Inspection Program Managers. Unbeknownst to me when I took this position, I guess I didn't realize the responsibilities that program managers have. That first definition there of a program manager is the individual that is in charge of the program that has been assigned or delegated the duties and responsibilities for bridge inspection, reporting, and inventory. Those are pretty big responsibilities. And basically, there is one program manager per state, and we deal with federal highway, and we deal with the state agency, and all the inspections and the inventory. It's a little bit of a heavy lift. There's a little bit more responsibility. I think that's evident with some things that have happened recently with bridges, one in particular that had to get shut down, and the implications and the fallout from that makes you really understand the responsibilities. But I also have felt that sometimes you're out there kind of on an island. You're the one person in the state that is kind of ultimately responsible. In April of 2021, we were made aware of the working group. I was invited to attend one of their meetings. It was great. It was a great forum for the inspection program managers from those states to actually just discuss different things they were dealing with, how they were dealing with them. I just decided that this is something that I thought would be really beneficial for the Midwest Preservation Partnership. We briefly discussed even having it as a national working group, and we decided it would really be better as a regional working group because you have a smaller group, you can get a little bit more interaction between and amongst the people that are there. These were ideas that the Southeast Bridge thrown out there, things that they wanted to talk about. Meeting 30-day requirements, load posting bridges, that's always a challenge. Software, what software do you use? COVID-19 impacts. The process of rating culverts, reconciling differences between NBI general condition ratings and element condition states, scour challenges, posting interstates and other bridges for EVs and how their states are dealing with that. Comparisons of inspection reports, discussions of critical findings, definitions, time frame for required action, local bridges, who has the authority of inspection programming, and UAV, drone, UAS inspections. In May of 2021, at our meeting, for the Midwest Bridge Partnership, we threw the idea out there and said, what kind of interest do you think we'll have? Well, a lot of the program managers are not in the Preservation Partnership. They're not one of the regular attendees at the meetings, so we decided we would put it out to the states, survey and say, how many of you would be interested in doing this? When get to the program managers, it became very positive. There was a lot of interest, so we set up a first meeting in June. Shared the ideas that the Southeast Bridge group was working with, some of those ideas. We talked about attendees. It was one of the questions that we had kind of early on is who should be involved. Southeast Bridge has a federal highway partner that is always at the meetings, or nearly always at the meetings. Is that what we wanted to do? Would be able to speak freely if we had a federal highway person in the room? We decided basically, we wanted to have them there for the most part. And we actually have 2 that volunteered to be in the group. Some real positive things about that is that sometimes it's hard for us to understand why federal highway does the things they do. Why do they require this? So it helps give them the voice and to kind of work that establish the communication better. In North Dakota, we have a really good rapport between the state and our federal highway partner there, our bridge division engineer. That isn't always the case. We decided for the most part we would do that. If we needed to, we could ask them, and they would be willing to just bow out of a meeting or not attend a meeting if we wanted to have something that we felt more comfortable discussing without them in the room. We also had some interest from consultants and a few other people that thought, this might be a really good thing to get involved in. And again, we decided, at least initially, that we were going to keep it to the state inspection program managers. And in a few instances, there's more than one. There'll be an assistant or something that will join us also. For the most part, to have the discussions that we wanted to, we felt it was really more relevant. That was what, that was our focus. That's what we wanted to do. There may be times when we will invite someone, and we, as a group, can make a decision to revise those rules or, guidelines at any time. And it's not that anything that we're doing is secret or anything. I mean, we all work for DOTs, right? Open book, open records, that's the way it is. Just to be able to have the conversations and have some real candid conversations. The other thing that we did at our first meeting, we had some brief discussions about each state, what their inventories were, kind of just overall there's things about the inspection program. And then we picked a meeting time for the first Thursday of each month that we would meet. The officers, right now, the chair is Mike Brokaw from Ohio DOT, Travis McDaniel from Wisconsin DOT, Ed Lutkin from MnDOT is the secretary. Primary focus of the group, the BIPM role. What is our role and how do we do that the best possible? The other part that we really wanted to do is maintaining our focus on preservation. And I think that the whole title of this session, using inspections to drive preservation, this is it, right? So much of what we do in inspections is huge in identifying and prescribing things to do on the bridges. There's obviously the cyclical things, but even some of those may not get done the way they're supposed to. So if we go out to a bridge, we can tell that bridge has not been cleaned. There's a lot of dirt. There's probably plants growing on it. I mean, we've all seen it. If we go out there and we see that, the inspectors see that, they need to remind them that there are cyclical things that they need to be doing. We set some ground rules. Again, they can be changed any time. This is our charter that is usually on the website for the working group. This is a draft. It is not out there yet, but the focus of the group to provide a regular forum for bridge inspection program managers to discuss challenges and best practices in implementing a bridge inspection program. Provide a regular forum for presentations to BIPMs by others, industry, and other parties. Increase the network of bridge inspection program managers, enabling them to reach out to the larger audience and seeking expertise. Hopefully we'll be able to get some documentation out of best practices. How do we deal with a lot of the different things? Some of the bigger challenges, local agency inspections and compliance. It's a challenge whether you're centralized or decentralized for your inspections. It still is always a challenge. Best practices for program managers, the elephant in the room, challenges of the upcoming SNBI implementation, and the 23 metrics, which they're always there. They're going to be big issues. We also did a survey of topics. A lot of these are similar to the others, the Southeast Bridges topics that they came up with. A few different ones, QC/QA of the inspections, condition states, GCRs, load rating issues, the SCOUR program, plans of corrective action. How do you deal with them? What can we do to help others work through them? What can we share that others have dealt with? SCOUR issues, load rating issues, critical findings. How do we deal with and document critical findings the best way that we're able, in a way that will satisfy reporting requirements for federal highway? UASs and drones, EV posting. I have critical findings twice. I guess it's that important. The SNBI culvert load ratings. How do you load rate culverts? Challenging. Structural plate pipes. NBI conversions, local bridge training. This group is a champion for that. Sharing bridge inspection reports, 3D modeling, and agency-defined elements. So in August, we had our first meeting. We focused, our first meeting where we really had a lot of discussion about a specific topic, scour. Kentucky had a PowerPoint presentation that they shared. I shared some experiences from North Dakota. The scour program is a very challenging one. The scour rating is very challenging. There was a big push in and around, the 1990s to identify scour critical bridges and bridges with unknown foundations and develop POAs or plans of action for whoever the owner is. A lot of them are local agencies. But as you can see from Kentucky's experience, they got through it, and now there's more to do. And federal highway rules are ever changing. It's a given. It can be overwhelming, but it's the way it's going to be. I mean, the only constant is change, right? Things are going to change. So what are some of the best practices that we could use for scour? Kentucky had developed a risk-based process. We are in the process of getting our risk-based process finalized right now, and we've gotten that accepted, but now we have to go through and do a lot more with our bridges, do a lot more analysis, figure out how to deal with unknown, and actually run through the process with all of our bridges. A lot of our bridges. Some are done, not all of them. But again, they finished in 2018. In 2019, they had got another improvement plan for a few things that weren't done or done correctly. Improvement plans, if you don't know, through the metrics, they go through like your scour rating or your scour information, and if it's mostly complete and just a few issues, they will give you an improvement plan. It's a little more informal. You can work with your division bridge engineer, and you work through it. You come up with something, he approves it, and you figure it out, and once you get whatever done that you say you're going to do in your plan, then you're done. If it goes to the next level, a plan of corrective action or a PCA, that means it is a formal plan. You have to develop it. The division engineer, the division bridge engineer reviews it. It goes to headquarters so they can sign off on it. It's very formal reporting requirements that you have to do at least quarterly. It takes a lot of time, and it's painful. One other thing that we talked about with the scour is we had kind of a roundtable discussion. Who does the coding for item 113? So it's a scour. It's not, and we can inspect it and we can find clues for it. But as far as the inspection program, how do you tell by looking at it if there's scour? You really can't. You need to do more. So you can do some probing of the channel. But then who's going to do the analysis to determine whether this is a scour critical bridge or not? You need hydraulics, a geotech, and a design engineer. And they are the ones that will really go through and do the full analysis for scour. What's the difference between an 8 and a 5 code? Well, 8 means it's stable, and that's the top picture. And the second picture is a 5. But this is an 8. Well, and this, according to the guide, is a 5. For calculated scour, these to me don't look equivalent at all. We do everything on deep piles. When we calculate our scour, and this is very similar to Kentucky, we anticipate we're okay if that goes down to and exposes a little bit of the pile. That's still very stable. If you've got a 60 or 80 foot pile depth, you can expose a foot or two of the pile, and you're just fine. But they consider it that you have to watch it then. And so what Kentucky has done and what we have done to date and will continue to do until the SNBI comes out is we will code that an 8. Because as long as that scour is within the pile that is stable, and it's calculated that way, we consider that an 8. And of course, but between these two, there's a lot of difference there. You're going to get, between 2 feet and 80 feet of scour. And so I think so much of what's in the coding guide and the whole reason for doing the SNBI is because of some things like this that are probably need some, and in the SNBI, this is getting revised. And there will be 2 different scour ratings, a field rating and an office rating. And if it goes through the way the draft is. Anyway, then in addition to this, we talked about Bridges Coded U, and then we shared, several states shared like their risk-based process, the risk-based information for documentation. September, we talked about local agency inspections, both September and October. Challenges, timelines, how do we get them to meet inspection reporting timelines? How do we make sure that they're doing fracture critical inspections and get them to document them correctly? The load ratings, postings, and closures for local structures are always a challenge. We've heard about that a few times already. How do you enforce things on the local system? Different state laws. There are laws. Some states have a lot more authority. Some states give a lot more authority to local agencies, and you may not be able to go in and just simply shut down a bridge. But if it needs to be shut down, Federal Highway tells you you have to. So how do you deal with that? How do you work with the locals and try and get them to understand the risk? Some of the successes, like building relationships, and that is a huge one. We have done a lot with that. There are a lot of states that have automated email reminders or reports that will run, and that is something that we are going to look into a lot more, Matt. and how do we get that to happen? And so it helps us so we don't lose track of a lot of different things that we're trying to make sure we're not delinquent in. Proficiency tests for team leaders, a lot of states will have that. They will, not only as a team leader do you have to go through all of the training, fresher trainings that Federal Highway requires, they have proficiency tests to make sure that that you are diligent in your inspection program, team leader duties. Getting a BRR supersite license will help. BRR is the load rating program, it's bridge rating, and having the supersite license allows the local agencies to have a license at a lower cost under you. So those are some of the things that we can do to help that. Ohio DOT, Mike Brokaw talked about, some of the things that they do in their state and how they, how the inspections are performed, how they deal with the municipalities and counties. Again, they have a law that, if I state this incorrectly, I apologize, but basically that county engineers have to have, they have to have a county engineer, and they have to be a PLS and a PE. Am I correct in that? Who's here from Ohio? Okay. Okay. Yeah, we don't have that in North Dakota. We have a lot of counties that don't have an engineer at all. They have a maintenance person. They're low, they're low populations, and so they don't have that kind of staff, and they have to consult with someone in order to do a lot of that work for them. So, and again, automated reports, tracking critical findings, scheduled, not scheduled, delinquent inspections, and then being able to do a bunch of spreadsheet comparisons. November, we talked about critical findings, and I mentioned this already, but again, this is an area that we have to track. If there is a bridge, Federal Highways critical finding definition is specific but vague. It basically says if there's a bridge, if there's a situation where this is an issue of safety, if there's a concern with safety, you have to code a critical finding. Well, exactly what does that mean? And that is not a verbatim quote, but basically that's what they say. If you are an inspector and you find an issue that has immediate safety concerns, you need to code it as a critical finding, and then what? You have to report on those. You have to track them. You have to find out what they're doing. When are they planning to do it? I think last year in North Dakota, we had about 120 critical findings. Virtually all of them were on the local system. And so now, again, you're trying to follow up with locals and get them to communicate with us, and how do we do that? And they allow the states to refine that definition, but you still have to be, like, we had a definition that had been approved at one time, and last year we were told that that was not adequate. We had to redo our definition. And so we did. And so we have more critical findings now than we had before. Understanding Federal Highway's role in that is that ultimately it's safety. I mean, when you're talking critical findings, it's all about safety, making sure the bridges are safe. That's their job. So I always try and frame my job, what I do, and their job and what they're required to do. And it's not a personal thing, it's a required job. It's the way it is. So how do you address it or resolve it? Well, you can do something. They consider addressing it as a temporary, and then resolving it is a permanent solution. Well, what's the difference? Sometimes that's really hard to tell. And what is permanent? There's nothing ever really permanent, right? Because the bridge is going to deteriorate again, even if you fix it. So a lot of difference between different federal highway agencies, divisions, and how they interpret that also. So that's a little bit of a frustration. Having Federal Highway involved, I talked to my division bridge engineer, and I said, there is frustration about, the different interpretations and different things that different states are held to. He said, I know. So we just had a meeting at Federal Highway, and we had the same discussions. So it's not that, I don't think it's an evil, that they're trying to be the evil bad guy. There's different interpretations of how to do things, and how do we become more consistent. So this program is helping us become more consistent, I think, across the states from the program manager's perspective. And I think that it will, Federal Highway will continue to work on that. I think that this working group is just wonderful as far as giving people a forum, a way to talk about things, get through this, and to continue to improve all of our inspection programs, as well as all of the information that comes out of the inspection programs, and the way that will help everybody preserve the bridges. I will take any questions. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And that's an interesting question where we have the minutes, but we do have minutes. We have a secretary. Mike Brokaw is also our chair. And certainly anything that we do and we talk about there is, we will certainly share. And we will always share with the Midwest Bridge. Every month that we have a Midwest Bridge meeting, I will give a brief update on what we're doing and what we've talked about and what we've done. Right. We have a form that I think, again, we borrowed, I think, from Texas, maybe? I think, actually, someone else actually found it. I didn't. I think it's maybe been slightly varied. It does. It gives us the ability to say, what's the bridge? When did you find it? What is the critical finding? What is your recommended action? It's a little more in depth than that. Then we require that if our inspectors find critical findings, they fill out the report, they attach photos documenting whatever issue it is, the critical finding issue, and then they send it to us. If it's something that requires the bridge to be closed, they are to contact us from the field so that we can work with the county typically and make sure that the bridge gets closed. They give that to us. We document it. I just have a large spreadsheet right now because we just started doing this last year. And I documented in there the dates, what the recommended actions were. Then if it's, we actually use load postings. If a load posting sign is down or not legible, it's a critical finding for us. So if it is that, we make a special mark. That's pretty easy usually to get that taken care of. If it's something that requires a bridge closure, again, we make a mark in there. Then we track what did the NBI ratings, did any of them go down to below a 3? For us, that's critical finding. If it goes below a 3, it's critical finding automatically. So was there an NBI component that went below 3? And then what were the NBI ratings before and after? Any extra remarks, and then a date that it was addressed and a date resolved. Sometimes that's the same date, one thing and it's done. And sometimes you address it and they decide they're going to replace the bridge, and it stays open for a while. Is this the form that you talk about, is this like a form that some state has come up with, or is this our take on that is we do and we close it. If it's something like that, we still document it. Yeah, I mean, for us, and then it's a way for us to watch in the future. Is this bridge going to have the same issue again? Load postings are a big thing. Like, the sign's down one time, is it taken down intentionally? Was it knocked over by a piece of farm equipment? Hard to say. If it's down repeatedly, becomes a bigger issue. We, try and look at things that way. But if anyone has any information on the CFD, I would be interested in hearing about it. We have also not coded those as critical findings, but we do have two that we had to close a lane of the bridge, and we have recorded those as critical findings, and they remain critical findings, open until that bridge is fixed or replaced. So, okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.